So today we are going to get started on kind of a new unit, and that unit's going to be revolving around budgeting and just some like money and stuff like that too. Before we start into that though, we're going to go through two big important ideas of things that we see in our everyday lives. And each item that we see in our everyday lives can be classified as one of these two things. And these two things are needs and wants. So have you ever heard of a need or a want before? If not, we're going to be going through kind of today like what a need is and what a want is, along with some examples of both and why those examples are classified as a need or a want. And then also at the end of the lesson too, we're going to be having a small assignment where we make a list of a few things that we know are needs and a list of a few things that we know are wants too. So let's start off here. So needs are things that people must have in order to live. For example, all people must have food in order to survive. That means food is a need. So now we're going to click on the buttons below and we're going to explore the four basic needs that all humans have. We see in the upper left-hand box here, it kind of looks like shirts to me, so maybe clothes. Yep, clothes are going to be one of the basic human needs. We need clothes to wear every day so we can go out in public and do our essential activities that we need to do to live. And along with that, we also see in the top right here is a house. We need a house for shelter. Shelter is always going to be one of those needs because we need a shelter in order to survive. Whether that shelter is a house, a camper, a tent, doesn't really matter. As long as you have some sort of shelter, that's the main thing. And now these bottom two, you can see food and water. Food and water are definitely going to be a need for our life because we always need to eat to get our nutrition and energy, and we always need our water to stay hydrated so that we can continue to live our daily life. So if we look back here, we can see that our four main needs of human basic life is clothes, shelter, food, and water. And I bet every one of us does something with these four every single day. We either wake up in a house, and we put on clothes, we eat breakfast, and usually we get a drink of water too in the morning or something like that. So if we remember from the last page, a need is a need something that you must have in order to survive? Is a need something that is fun to play with? Probably not. Or is a need something that makes your life harder? I know a need is not something that is fun to play with. And if we go back to our last two pages here, we can see that clothing, shelter, food, and water are four needs. Are those something that we must have in order to survive? Or is that something that makes our life harder? Well, food and water definitely doesn't make our life harder, so we know it's not going to be this one. And we already said that it's not something fun to play with, so that leaves us with one more answer here. And that is something that you must have in order to survive. So a need is something that you must have in order to survive. Yep, and it says here, needs are things that people must have. People cannot live if they do not have their needs met. Ooh, so click on things that are needs. I remember seeing water. We all need to drink water every day, so I think water's a need. We see a sandwich. Well, that's considered food. We need food every day. Yep. Look at this. We see a house here. Shelter. I think I remember shelter was one of them. We can always go back here though. Yep. There we can see a house. We know that shelter is one of the four main basic needs that all humans have. So let's go back here. We had water, sandwich, and then we're going to try the house. So let's test this one out. Yep. And now we go over here for our last one. It looks like some rollerblades. Do I need rollerblades to live my everyday life? Probably not. So that's not going to be one. That's going to be one that we can use to play with. We don't necessarily need rollerblades. So we click it, we'll probably see an X. Yep. So we know that just these three things right here, food, water, and shelter. So now we got one more question here. Gonzalo went shopping today. He came home with many things. Take a look at what he bought. So we're going to look at this list here, and we're going to choose which of these items is not considered needs. A toy race car. Does he need a toy race car to survive? Probably not, so that's not going to be considered a need. A jump rope? Does Gonzalo need a jump rope to survive? Well, a jump rope is a good way to get exercise. He can always get his exercise from doing something different, like running, push-ups, or something like that. So we know a jump rope's not going to be a need. Lettuce. Well, lettuce is a food, and I do remember food being one of the 4 main needs for human survival. So I do think lettuce is going to be a good one to keep. How about bananas? Well, bananas are also a food with lettuce, so we'll probably keep bananas too. Coloring book? Does Gonzalo need a coloring book to survive and go throughout his everyday life? Probably not. He doesn't need a coloring book. He may want one, but he doesn't need one. And lastly, tomatoes. Well, tomatoes are considered a food too, with bananas and lettuce. If we remember, we need food to survive. Food is classified as a need, so we'll leave these 3 unchecked because they are considered needs. And our question is asking, what is not considered a need? But look at that. Oh, we got them all right there. We know he doesn't need a toy race car, he doesn't need a jump rope, and he does not need a coloring book. We got one more here. So Emma has all of her blank met because she has food, water, shelter, and clothing. If all her needs were not met, she blank. So let's go through this here. So Emma has all of her blank met because she has food, water, shelter, and clothing. Does she have all of her wants met or all of her needs met? Well, we were just talking about needs and how food, water, shelter, and clothing were all part of them. So I'm going to guess that it's going to be needs. And then we finished off. If all her needs were not met, so we're looking here, keyword is not. So if all her needs were not met, would she be healthy and safe? Or would she not live a long life? Well, if all her needs were not met, she probably wouldn't be very healthy and safe because she's not getting the food and the water she needs. So that would probably leave us with this one. She would probably not live that long of life. When we go up here, Emma has all her needs met because she has food, water, shelter, and clothing. If all her needs were not met, she would not live a long life. And this one here, so Janelle is camping in the desert. She has a tent, a sleeping bag, clothes, and food in her backpack. What item did Janelle forget to pack that she needs? Hint: Janelle cannot survive without this item. So let's look at the very first part of our question here. Janelle is camping in the desert. So a desert. We know it's going to be hot there. Hot, warm, and sandy. We know that she brought a tent, a sleeping bag and clothes, and food. But what is one of the main things she forgot? Well, what are our 4 needs for basic survival? Remember, it's food, water, clothing, and shelter. So if we look here, she brought a tent, so that's her shelter. She brought clothes, food. So what is the last thing she's forgetting to bring? Probably water. You definitely need water when you're out in the desert too, because it's going to be hot and sandy and you're going to be thirsty. So she cannot survive without this item. Can she survive without water? No, probably not. So there we see it. Janelle has water. So now we can go through here and remember that clothing, shelter, food, and water are the 4 needs for human survival. So those things are needs. Now we need to classify things as wants. So what if a need is something we need to survive? Do you think a want is something we need? Probably not. So we look here. Wants are things that people would like to have but do not need to live. Things like toys, electronics, or cars are wants. These things can make life better, but we don't necessarily need them to live. So we can see here computers, tablets, cell phones, all that stuff are wants. We don't need them to live, but they do make our life a little bit easier. So a want is something that you would like to have but do not need to have, something that makes life harder, or something that you need to have in order to survive. Well, we know this last one was the definition for a need, so we know it's not going to be that one. Does a want make your life harder? Does a computer and a tablet make your life harder? No, it makes your life easier a lot of times. So that just leaves us with this one right here. A want is something that you would like to have but don't need to have. Yep, so wants are nice to have, but you can live without them. You must have needs to survive. So let's look at these pictures down here. Which of these are wants? First one's a house. Remember a house being in our list of needs. And then we got food, now also in our list of needs. What we got left down here? A ring. Do we need a ring to survive? No. Do we need a rocking horse? No, that's just a toy. Or how about a big, fancy, shiny red new car? Nope, we can always walk. So we know that these three things, the ring, the car, and the toy horse, are all things that we want in life, not need. So which is more important, a want or a need? So this is one of the questions that I want you guys to actually answer in an email and send to Miss Noner. But I will put those instructions in the module too, and there will be one more question. So you guys will have 2 questions to answer and send to them in an email to Miss Noner. And if you guys have any questions on what wants or needs are, you guys can always feel free to send one of us an email. And then we will also be continuing on with these needs and these wants. And we'll kind of be putting them into the form of like a budget. And we can budget things that we need in our life and things that we want in our life. But that'll be coming up here again soon in probably one of these next modules.